Welcome back to A Shark's Perspective. So let's talk reputation and reviews. It's one of those topics that I don't think gets nearly enough attention when we talk about all of the things that can affect sales and lead generation for a business. But there are a lot of statistics that tell us that products and services with better reviews and more of them get selected by consumers over ones with lower scores and number of stars. It's important for B2C and B2B, but how do you gather them all up to make sense to you, to consumers, and internally to the teams that need to make changes? Aaron Weiche is the CEO for GatherUp, a platform empowering businesses and brands to gather customer feedback, testimonials, and online reviews. And on this episode, we'll discuss reputation management, collecting and aggregating reviews, both first and third party, transparency, where and how to use them, what agencies can do to help, Joan Jett and Taylor Swift, and a lot more. So let's tune in to an expert review gatherer with a 5-star shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Aaron, thank you so much for joining me today on A Shark's Perspective. So tell us a little bit about your background, leading up to the reputation game.
Yeah, the easiest way to put it is 2 decades ago, I got hooked into the world of digital, building web pages in the mid to late 90s, and just kind of cut my teeth there, and then kind of a ladder approach of building bigger websites, getting into the sales and consulting side, starting small agencies, helping grow small agencies, then a little bit larger agencies, and all of that, rolling up over time, building websites, apps, search campaigns, social campaigns, just really anything digitally related, from small businesses all the way up to, Fortune 5 companies. And then, just kind of ended up by chance into where I'm at now. GatherUp is a SaaS reputation and review management service. And our company helps people listen to their customers and be able to capture more of those experiences so they can use it in their marketing out on the web.
So there weren't any horrible scandals that triggered all of your focus on reputation reviews?
No, not at all. I would say,
Yeah.
if anything, it came from after nearly 2 decades, especially, a lot of focus in the last 10 years before moving to GatherUp, all around search marketing, and just seeing every single trend out there from, pre-Google to when it was just Yahoo. And, the best thing you could do for visibility was be in the Yahoo directory, whether you paid or were admitted into it. But you see every little, tactic and trick and hack, and you see those come and go in, waves, both small and large. And when I was, looking to do something different, what attracted me to this was knowing what your customer thinks is like a business staple. And that really appealed to me after, just so much of there's a lot of great substance and great strategy to search marketing. But there's also just a lot of today's steroid, today's hack, what's the loophole, all those other things that I was like, I'm ready to kind of be done with that. And that's
Yeah.
what led me to every business needs to know what their customer thinks about them, whether they know it publicly or privately. And that's what drew me to this.
So I was thinking about this prior to recording the show, but why do you think that online review platforms and places for people to speak about other brands, what do you think was the genesis of that? Because when you think about all the different sites, the Yelps and Home Advisors, whatever the industry, the Google reviews, what do you think sort of sparked that initial interest as for customer that told marketers or somebody that was building a site and said we need to house a place for people to lodge complaints or compliments about a business?
Yeah, and I find this really interesting too, because it's hard to figure out, what's the chicken, what's the egg in this.
Exactly.
But a couple of different things that I look at. When you look at kind of the big power players, and they obviously are able to drive a lot, but one as a whole across all platforms, we've seen that the individual consumer, the individual user, the internet has helped amplify their voice, 1 million times over. You used to need to be someone famous, a professional athlete, a spokesperson, whatever else, and the mediums were, newspaper, radio, and TV. Well, now you have the internet and you can just be an average person, but placing the right message in the right place at the right time can bring a lot of eyeballs and a lot of people consuming that content. So I think from one standpoint, that whole push is definitely part of it. And then I really look towards Amazon, right? Amazon figured out that,
100%.
what the customer thought was so important if you're going to sell online, because you can't touch it, you can't see it, any of those things. So they realized they needed other people telling the story of their experience with that product, how it was shipped, what it was like when it arrived. Is it bigger or smaller than what it looks? Is the color on point? Do they feel good about the purchase? All of those types of things they realized was going to be key to getting those add to carts and those purchases to happen. And then the last stage of it, as we've seen, especially in the last 5 years, is we have seen Google go heavy into reputation content and pushing it into the search results.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's this combination of, for the longest time, they were using everything they could that was more, machine, data, backlinks, all of those things oriented to help evaluate trust and authority. And then they quickly realized, in this same push and the same way customers are amplified, well, we can get customers in mass to talk about these things, and we can really start to understand brands and businesses and experiences by just allowing the customer to talk about it and then pull them together. And then they quickly realize, like, wow, people interact with results far more when there's reputation data associated with them.
Well, and it means so much now to a near me result. If you're looking for any kind of business near you, what pops up is not just the location, but where people are physically located. And those, it's hard to believe that just a hyper-localization strategy and reputation go hand in glove together with a lot of those SEO efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. Proximity, in knowing where every search comes from via IP address or the device you're on, so very important. But I often talk to people about just understanding the transformation between, one, for the longest time, it's been called the information age, right? We've never had more information put in front of us. If we have a 1952 Frigidaire refrigerator that we need to repair something, we can both find that historic, old part somewhere online, someone has it and is willing to sell it. And then we can also find a video of someone else that's replaced one, so you can be taught how to do it. So finding information is completely easy nowadays, but the hard part is to be able to suss out what is trusted and valuable information. And that's where I looked at all of these sites and figured out, well, it's other people's opinions and their experiences. And so we need to mesh all of this information with some type of a trust factor or social proof, so that people, can put that trust and want to consume what our answers and our content is.
How do you think people are going to go about doing that, though? How are brands really going to be able to leverage that so that we can legitimately look at reviews as not being, a bunch of spammed bots, as opposed to being authentic reviews where people can actually trust? Because we hear all these words. I've worked on the brand side where so often you hear of, these are actual real reviews, but that phrase has been overused so much and it becomes not a trusted phrase. But how, as a consumer, how should I look at a site and figure out which reviews I should really trust?
Yeah, fabulous question, Shark. That's one that one signal that I think is great is more and more brands are asking us that question when we're working with them, which to me, that's a great start, right? Early on in reputation, everybody was looking no different than search. How do I optimize it? How do I sculpt it? How do I get this to play in my favor? And more of them now are realizing, wow, authenticity and trust is far more important. So I think there's a couple of key things. One is being committed to showing everything of your reputation, right? Not just your best reviews, not just the 5-star ones, but showing anything from the 1-star experience to the 5-star.
Yeah.
And when you see a company start to embrace that, then after that, internally, they're smart to set up a review policy, right? Like, what are there some kinds of content that you are not going to post, but show we've put some process and some guardrails around this so you can understand what we're doing and how we're putting this together. And then once you show everything, like engage with it, right? I'd tell people you really need to look at reviews as more of a conversation and less of a static, oh, this is just posted. So replying to those reviews, showing you're listening when a customer experience goes wrong, showing you're listening when it goes right, and you're thanking that customer for taking the time to share that experience. All of those things are really, really important. And I think for this next stage, this next chapter of life in reputation and its importance, that authenticity is going to be the most important thing to establish, to be able to really leverage this as a fabulous, marketing tactic.
Are brands telling you, giving you feedback rather, on an aggregation of reviews? I like the ability, if I'm looking at any site, to see a review from Yelp, Facebook, Home Advisor, whatever the aggregation of sites are that a company's working with, where they've got reviews that they're collecting. But I'm curious what you're hearing back from brands as to what they're seeing as opposed to showing just a narrower view of sites.
Yeah, absolutely. The important thing for a brand to do is to replicate what the consumer sees in their real
Exactly.
world of research and searches, right? So when you type a brand into the Google search bar, you are likely going to get all of those different review sites that you just talked about, likely on page one. And even more so, we see a lot of user intent skipping straight to that, where somebody will type in a brand and just say, like, Hilton Hotel downtown Minneapolis reviews, right? Like, don't give me the Hilton's website. Show me what these third-party sites and what are other customers rating this property and what do they have to say. So for that, I tell brands, like, yeah, you want to be doing that exact same thing. You want to make sure you're aggregating all of these together. And you do want to be taking a deep dive on what are the consumers talking about, because your ratings definitely can vary from site to site based on the critical mass of that site. Obviously, Yelp is its own beast with their own algorithm and what they filter out and what they show. But really, at the end of the day, we try to get people to focus on, it doesn't matter where your customer is posting it. You need to understand what they're saying. So it could be direct to you in a first party review. It could be Yelp, it could be TripAdvisor, Better Business Bureau, Google, you name it that's out there, but you need to understand it. And then you need to do your homework and analyze it. And what are the themes that they're talking about across these thousands or tens of thousands, depending upon the size of the business, review, and then start to break down and really understand what drives a 5-star experience and what drives a 1-star experience, and even what drives a 3-star experience, and what's missing to get people up those next rating ladders or to make sure that they have better experiences. Because at the end of the day, any tool like ours, I would be a very rich and very liked man by customers if, just because how we help them reach out and engage their customer in talking to them, that's not going to turn a 1-star experience into a 5-star review because we send a beautiful email or a really nice text message or make it easy for them to talk to them. But what we want to do is uncover those experiences so that you can really understand, here are the differences in their experience that can take it from being an average 3-star experience to being a 5-star, or to saving a 1-star to actually just being a 3-star. And I think that's really important for brands to be able to grab all of that, understand all of that, and then they can build processes, training, guardrails, all of those things around ensuring that they're getting those best experiences to happen the majority of the time.
If you think of when people are asking for reviews and when people are giving them, do you see a larger number of people giving 1s and 2s early into the response process after a poor service than you do the 4s and the 5s after a service has been performed well?
So there are a couple important things I think to touch around that question. One is, the best thing a business or brand can do is to be proactive, right? So when you are asking as close to that experience, instead of the consumer having to do the work to go leave feedback or to go write a review somewhere. Because oftentimes, if you think about it, those poor reviews are usually after all other efforts have failed to either talk to that business or to find a way to talk to that business. And it can often be a last resort where you didn't make it easy for me to get help. You didn't help me, and so now I want to air this dirty laundry and warn others off because I'm worn out on the experience with this brand. So one, we say, control it. Make sure you're asking every customer and making it easy for them to talk to you. And so doing that with an email or a text message as close to that service and aha moment is definitely going to be helpful. Then in that process, we really believe the best thing you can do is kind of tier the process where the initial part of talking to them is just a couple questions directly to you, the business.
Right.
We call it capturing a first party review direct to you, the business. Because then you're going to allow them, if they are upset or something was wrong, you've already shown them instantly that you're listening, and we've put right on your front door a way to talk to us, and you can get this off your chest so that we can get it into our system and do something about it. So those things drastically reduce someone needing to write that negative review online. One stat I can kind of share is we're working with one customer comes to mind, hundreds of locations in the fast casual space. And prior to working with us, their kind of corpus of reviews, 84% of their reviews were positive 4 and 5-star reviews out on third-party review sites that they were monitoring. And then 16% were 1, 2, and 3-star varieties. Well, in working with us and implementing the things that we just talked about, proactively asking, making it easy, and getting direct conversation going before asking for a third-party review, they flipped that into 94% became 4 and 5-star reviews, and just 6% were 1, 2, and 3-star reviews. So they were able to give the customer a way to talk to them and solve some of those problems before they had to resort to going to write those online reviews. And in the process, right, it kind of, it's the tide that raises all boats, because now the entire organization knew, like, hey, we are actively asking customers. So the staff was more aware of it. They were able to see some of those results. They were able to share them with employees. And it kind of pushed everything up, creating better experiences, not just in how they came out in reviews,
Absolutely.
but they're able to, consistently deliver them.
Do you find that experience that you create with your types of reviews, or with any others that you run up against, is that really the biggest differentiator as to what prompts people to give reviews?
Yeah, absolutely. Time and time again, when you look, and we've done, and I'm not going to remember it off the top of my head, we've done a number of studies, and service is always the leader in that differentiator, right? And that just really comes down to, that can be the magic touch with anything, because how many people actually have a very unique product or a very unique service at the root of it, right? Like, that doesn't exist anymore. We summarize it always as, today is the Amazon economy. Like, you can get it delivered, you can get a price, you can get a selection. All those things are extremely difficult to compete on. But how you deliver it, right, and the brand and the reputation around that, like, those are the differentiators. And so the really great companies, they find the little ways to, really make it exceptional, where, yeah, we could just deliver it, do whatever else, or service it in this manner and not follow up as much or ask the right questions. But those that really succeed, they find all those little service pieces, and that really brings it over the top, and it delivers above the consumer's expectation to earn great reviews.
Then for a brand, if they have products or services that are reviewed on Google and Amazon and Facebook in particular, and odds are they'll have at least 2 of those if they don't have them on Amazon as well. But there's so many different sites. Not all sites obviously are the same, and you need to have them everywhere, just like a consumer does. I thought it was a great point about how when you go out and look for a product or service, and you're Googling it, and you see all the transparency, if you will, that Google will show you. But how should somebody sort of weight the abundance of reviews that come in? Because not all reviews and all review sites are equal.
Yeah, not at all. And that's why you see people, depending upon the industry type, where some of the review sites cross all sectors, right? If you're a service type business, something like that, Google is going to be there because it's so front and center and so visible. But then you're going to get into some industry specific sites to really help back that up, that likely is going to produce tighter content on what that is about, right? So it could be, Home Advisor for home services, or Angie's List, or Better Business Bureau. So within that, the consumer has that opportunity to be able to compare across other sites. And ultimately, they're going to go with, like, where is, the beef of the content. If I'm going to travel, TripAdvisor is likely going to be that destination, because if I'm going somewhere, I have 4 kids. So if I'm going to go on a vacation and I want to plan some things for them to do, I'm going to look into things in that area on the TripAdvisor site, and I'm going to try to zero in on someone else who has 3 or 4 kids, a larger family. Do they describe the age groups? Is there something for my 15-year-old as well as something for my 3-year-old to enjoy out of that destination? So I think we're going to see more and more. It used to be where it's like you needed some reviews so that people could get a feeling for the reputation. I think more and more now it's like it's going to be the quality of a review. You want a reviewer not just to give you that star rating, but you hope to actually get multiple sentences out of them describing their experience and what they went through, because that's what's going to be most beneficial to the consumer.
What advice do you give brands on where they should use reviews? I know we know website, which is easiest, and you've been a designer, so you know that's an obvious one, but where else? I mean, I've always been a big fan of using that type of social proofing and ratings and ad campaigns, landing pages, TV ads, wherever you can to talk about the scores. But how do you help brands know where to position them?
Yeah, I would agree with what you were just alluding to, like any and all places,
Yeah.
just because it's so valuable. It's what the consumer seeks nowadays. And, I see it all over the place, right? People do use it in their TV ads. I
Mm-hmm.
drive by billboards all the time where the billboard is actually saying, check out our
Exactly.
5-star ratings on Google, right? So it is something that businesses that are doing it understand. One thing that I think is really important to point out, though, that not everybody understands is reviews on all of these sites are a great thing. Google, Facebook, all the ones that we've mentioned today. But I also tell businesses you need to be capturing first-party reviews that you own as well.
Yes.
Because just as we've seen over the life of tech, whether it's something that ends up abused, spam, which reviews is suffering from that. If Google decides, hey, we're just going to get rid of reviews, like I don't see that happening, but say they did, they're not going to zip up your 300 reviews you've built 10 years building and send them to you in a folder. They're just going to be gone. So it's really important for that business that we say you want to be doing both. You want to be building first party reviews that are yours. You own them. You can use that content. You can put it wherever you want, learn from it operationally. But then also those third-party sites as well. Don't put all of your eggs into someone else's basket. Make sure you're distributing them into your own as well.
So one of the most important things to me that I think about, having experiences firsthand, and I speak about reputation often at a lot of conferences where I speak, especially in lead generation tactics and techniques. I don't think enough businesses today truly understand how important reviews are and how dramatically it can impact your lead generation and sales efforts, which is when, ears start to perk up. And I know, for example, your company cites on the website that negative reviews stop 40% of buyers from wanting to use a business. Can you unpack that a little bit for people to help understand what you've seen? Maybe not necessarily from any one study, but from just you as a marketer helping brands try to do better in sales and lead generation.
Yeah, I always point and ask them to think of themselves, every marketer is also a consumer when they're out
Exactly.
there. And the process of today's world is when I go looking for a service or a product, I'm going to do my due diligence in Google before I decide where I'm going to reach out to or anything else. So what's really hard to track, but looking at like the volume of searches that you get and how many of those actually take an action to go to your website, to click to call you, to get directions to that business. But when you're tracking that correctly, you're able to see like, hey, here's how many times that my profiles come up, but here's the real actions that are being driven. And a lot of times one of those major components, because of how it's visually represented within the Google search results, is reviews and reputation data that's there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the competition is really at the search level, right? It's not, all right, if they go through and read our website, this is how they feel about it. And then they'll go to our competitor and read through that website. Like, yes, that happens, but that the war is actually being fought right in those search results that's there. And Google is even helping them out and saying like, oh, you're looking for this company, but have you also, there's also these companies and whatever else. So they're really fostering a very competitive landscape that's out there. So when they come across you want to check all the boxes of having, strong reputation along with all the other pieces of data they're going to need to feel comfortable to then take that next step and take an action to work with you.
Ballpark idea. Let's say Metropolitan Stadium, home of your Minnesota Twins. Where are you seeing mobile versus desktop in percentage of reviews given? And I know the reason I ask that is so much of the input that where we're doing that search that you just referenced comes through a mobile device, and I'm just curious as to how much, if you've got any kind of data on where that's being driven, and because where we look at reviews from a B2B space versus a B2C is why I'm asking that question.
Yeah, I would say across our entire platform, it's probably a 60% mobile, 40% desktop. And that's, pretty indicative of a lot of things we see, right? I think I just saw somebody quoting one of Google's employees speaking at a conference gave a number that 60% of all Google searches are mobile now. It's the first time they've publicly stated a number in a while, since 50 or 55. So continues to gain ground. And obviously that has variance between a consumer business versus a B2B scenario and things like that. But you just look within any scenario, right? Even the scenario of you go and you're at a sporting event for your kids and the person next to you starts telling you that they just got their house painted. You've been thinking about getting your house painted. You ask them, oh, who'd you use? They tell you I used Tom Johnson Painting. The next thing you know, during a timeout, you're Googling Tom Johnson Painting and you're going to look to see, do they have reviews, whatever else. And even though you got a personal referral, checking out their reputation and checking them out online is like that next step. And then reach out to them to, book to get a consultation or to get a bid from that painter. So when you look at those types of processes, it's really easy to see that, what you're holding in your hand is going to be that next step, even through a human conversation where you're referred to a business.
Well, we're both in the digital marketing space, or have been for a good chunk of our careers. Do you not find it a little, I find it absolutely fascinating that somebody trusts reviews online from strangers more than they do from the people at the ballpark, like you were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I see both sides of it, right? One, it's such a benefit when you can crowdsource all of the information.
Yeah.
And as we know with anything, right, to really get at the heart of something, it's really about great questions. So if you're going to find something out from a person, if you ask them one question, one person might give you a one-word answer, the next person might give you a 20-minute answer, and you learned more than you ever wanted to about that topic.
Yeah.
So when you're able to, go to buy a TV on Amazon, or you're, going to go find an emergency plumber to help fix an issue in the middle of the night, you're going to be able to quickly just kind of scan and get a feeling to what that is. And then inside of different purchases, then you do want to peel through the content more. And I think for a lot of people, you can start to pick out what are real experiences and what is trusted, right? Like
Agreed.
somebody just leaving a 5-star review and no content, like that doesn't do anything for me. I don't pay that any attention.
Agreed.
I want to look at, find me the ones in a quick scan that have 3-4 sentences and have a paragraph, because I know the details and I'm going to get a better feeling for what that experience was.
So where do you think reviews and review sites and how we consume reviews will change over the future? I mean, as this evolves, where do you sort of see the industry and the consumption of reviews going?
Yeah, holy cow. There's
What's
a lot of, Yeah. Well, I don't know how accurate it's going to be, because sometimes I have a hard time just wrapping my head around, the 3 months in front of us.
Yeah.
But one that I think that we talked about, that at the highest level, I think authenticity is super important. The sites have a lot of work to do here. Google, Yelp, if they want to stay in this game, needs to be more transparent with their review algorithm. Amazon as well, right? They have all kinds of bot reviews, or the product was given in lieu of a review, things like that. So for the industry itself, I think authenticity. The second step that I see for consumers, what they really want is even easier tools to parse through these reviews, just as we were talking about. So businesses are building up hundreds, if not thousands, of reviews across these sites. You need a way to help surmise them for them, and summarize them, and make it easy for them to peel out what's really great and what might not be great about that business. And then the last side for the businesses, they really need to understand that a review just isn't a review. It's actually business intelligence about everything that customer might unearth about their experience with you, and you actually need to use that information to drive things for you operationally, not just marketing. Our best customers are the ones that, yes, marketing owns it and they're at the table because it deals with Google reviews and all these online sites, but operations is also there saying, great, now that you're hearing from hundreds or thousands of our customers, how do we turn this into things that we can change operationally so that we can be a better business?
Are you seeing where agencies are taking more of an interest in helping their customers, the brands that they service, with reviews?
I think reputation management for agencies is a really great win on a couple of different fronts. One, when you look at so many other services starting to be so heavily controlled, like Google wants AdWords to run automatically. So they want to take some of the paid acquisition tools away and make it so easy, so automated, AI driven, that agencies need to find more of these services and how to utilize them. So I see it happening from that standpoint. The second is it really informs the agency, right? Because
Absolutely.
if you're capturing all this feedback, now you're able to say, you know what? People are really raving about this, and you're not talking about this in your content or on your website or in your social media campaigns at all. And we should be, right? Like if you're a taco restaurant and everybody's raving about your happy hour, and your website just says, yeah, we have a happy hour from 5 to 7, like you should be pouring reviews into that site and saying, people rave about our happy hour. Like you need to be here from 5 to 7. It's an experience
Yeah.
that you're going to love. So those are the things where I see are just really big wins for agencies. Is it helps them deliver on a marketing tactic with reviews, but it also just uncovers all kinds of content ideas that they can use for conversion and content creation and everything else.
Aaron, you live in ridiculously cold but beautiful Minnesota, and this is not something you're going to see very often unless you see the sand tiger shark at the Mall of America's aquarium. But you're on a shark's perspective. Can you tell me what is your favorite kind of shark and why?
Oh, hammerhead for sure.
It's a 5-star shark for you.
It totally is. I just love its uniqueness, the completely different, and just the name Hammerhead just always felt nice and
Agreed.
aggressive for me. So that was my favorite.
Well, Aaron, it's a special time in the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting, important questions that you're going to be asked today?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Number 1, a 4.2 or a 4.5 review?
4.2.
Good man. Number 2, Joan Jett or Taylor Swift?
Oh, Joan Jett. I love rock and roll all day long. I was born in the 70s. I'm an 80s kid, so I'll take Joan Jett all day long.
Well, the reason I asked that question is because Joan Jett had a song called Bad Reputation, and Taylor Swift had an album called Reputation. So I thought I'd throw that one in. Number 3.
That's fabulous.
Well, you are a reputation thought leader, so you had to throw that in. Number 3, Rod Carew or Kirby Puckett?
Oh,
2 great twins.
yeah. I'm going to say Kirby Puckett just because he got it done. He got the World Series rings. Such a lovable player, both, fabulously great. I definitely studied Rod Carew hitting tapes on
Yeah.
VHS when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kirby Puckett was that spark plug, and yeah, I was lucky enough to be at both the '87 and '91
Nice.
World Series games, and fabulous, great memories of Kirby Puckett.
All right. Number 4, reviews on Facebook or reviews on Amazon.
I'm going to say Facebook. And, just real quickly, I think there's one big thing that Facebook's missing that I think they're going to get to. And that's showing you reviews in a business when you go to it from the people that you know and are in your network.
Yes.
So that's
Good
an
point.
added layer. Yeah, an added layer of trust in that social network that it's like, yeah, this business has 80 reviews, but here's 8 reviews from people you know and you already have a trust factor with. And I think that's a huge win for Facebook.
Agreed. Number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Oh, cornbread. Give me some cornbread with, my dry barbecue ribs, especially if I'm ever in Memphis. I
There
pretty
you
much
go.
eat barbecue for every meal. And, up here in the cold winters, it's cornbread with your chili.
There
So,
you go. So, Aaron, where can people find out more about you, follow your thought leadership in this space, learn more about your company, and more?
yeah, personally, I'm definitely a Twitteraholic. So at Aaron Weiche, AARONWEICHE on Twitter. And then, of course, GatherUp.com is where you can learn about our reputation management solution, and at GatherUp on Twitter. We're very active on all of those places. We blog weekly and things like that. So would love to have you stop by and consume some of our content.
Awesome. Aaron, I would give this a 5-star or 4.9 just because we want to make certain it has authenticity to it. But thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Shark, I appreciate it. Great questions, and especially that last round of 5.
Exactly.
The best 5 questions in an interview I've had.
So there was my conversation with Aaron Weiche, the CEO for GatherUp, a platform empowering businesses and brands to gather customer feedback, testimonials, and online reviews. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, what sparked reviews? Which came first? Was it the chicken and the internet, or was it the egg and the poor service? Remember when a review by a newspaper would make or break a restaurant? The internet has helped amplify your voice as an average person, so reviews by John and Susie Q. Public on Yelp make or break that much faster. But credit Amazon with recognizing that they needed other people to point out that a product was worth buying. Every business should realize, whether it's a product or a service, that people react more when reacting to other people's comments. Yes, businesses know it, but do they react to it? Many don't, because they don't truly realize the impact on their sales. I also want to point out that what you see is only a part of it. A lot of opinions on your business have not been voiced with a review. They've been voiced where you can't see them or hear them. As Aaron said, and I quote, "Businesses need to understand that a review just isn't a review. It's actually business intelligence about everything that a customer might unearth about their experience with you, and you actually need to use that information to drive things for you operationally, not just marketing." I agree, and so don't stop with just online reviews or ones that you collect. Those are leading indicators for what a broader audience of customers might be saying on social media, on phone calls to friends, and a lot more. It's all part of the bigger picture. Second, consumers today see through your filtered reviews on your website. As painful as it may be to you, consider being more transparent and showing the not so nice ones. If a majority of your reviews are negative ones, it could be a lot of things, but it also likely reflects a much bigger problem for you. You've got to realize that you may think you're posting glossy, wonderful stuff, but people go to Google and Yelp and a lot of other sites, and they post what they want. That's how consumers do research today. You want to build authenticity and trust? Then tell people what you've really posted. As Aaron said, the important thing for a brand to do is to replicate what the consumer sees in their real world of research and searches. So remember, if you think that your reputation ever stops at what you tell consumers, you're quite wrong. Everyone has some bad reviews, and people can react negatively to you not being transparent. And if you truly have a good reputation, then flaunt it. It's what the consumer seeks and wants to find. If you truly have a great product or service and your reviews reflect that, then use it in your ad campaigns, your landing pages, everything you can. Third, if you want to fix a majority of your reputation problems, then listen better to your customers and provide better service. That's the differentiator today. It's how you deliver a service that's the differentiator, not marketing. Amazon isn't the only e-commerce retailer in the world. Apple isn't the only phone seller in the world. And their prices aren't always the lowest. But what they're known for is having the best service first, and not how they respond to reviews only. Marketing may own this in your organization because it sits on the website, but if you want to market something well, market what you're hearing, and then take that and incite change internally with the teams inside your company. Marketing and customer service don't own a bad review. Everyone at your company owns reviews. Help the people in your organization hear what customers are telling you. And a rare fourth, agencies really need help these days showing their merit. Help your clients generate more great reviews. Fluffy stuff on social and a TV commercial won't move the needle most of the time for your clients' growth as much as what customers are saying. And no, you may not be able to guide the operations team on what needs to change, but you can help the marketing team position that into a conversation that people inside their corporation will hear. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Would you please consider giving this show a review? I'm always happy to listen to your opinions, and they really do matter. So join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.